The South African Union of Students has given National Treasury until this Friday to fund a shortfall at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. The union says decisions have been withheld by the scheme from the majority of returning students and first-time applicants. NSFAS faces a funding shortfall of about 10 billion rand. For more on the story, let's bring in the spokesperson for the South African Union of Students, that's Asive Dlanjwa. Asive, thanks very much indeed for making time. It's great to have you on the program. Interestingly enough, we reached out to NSFAS. They say they've met with you and you know that there is an imminent decision and announcement to be made around funding. What's your response to that?
Good morning, Ayanda, to you and your viewers, and thank you for having us. Always a pleasure. I've been here with you. I am glad that they did not deny it, because the reality is that the shortfall is there. Obviously, a decision has to be made. If there's a shortfall, I would have felt much better and encouraged if when you reached out they said, but SAUS knows that we already have that money, or that money is in the pipeline. I would have felt better, and I would have probably even felt silly for the statement that we have released. But they are telling us that a decision is imminent, which in fact should scare us, because if the imminence of the decision was that the funding will be there, then they would have not found anything amiss to just confirm to you that no, we will get the money even if we do not have it now. But it in fact should scare us and tell us that it is possible that that 9.6 billion rand shortfall might actually not be footed, all of it. Because the reality is that it is that they are correct. We have met with them and they confirmed with us that there is that 9.6 billion rand shortfall, and it is the reason why the majority of all NSFAS recipients, except for SASA recipients, still up to today have not received a funding decision regarding their status as to whether will be they funded by the scheme or not.
So you're saying basically that you don't know what the outcome of this meeting will be. Essentially, the point they were trying to make is, why issue an ultimatum when talks have happened and there's some kind of an agreement, unless I'm misinterpreting that?
There is no agreement. Even themselves, they don't know what is going to be the decision of cabinet. There's absolutely no agreement. They met to tell us, we met to tell them that, listen, you are messing up. Students are frustrated. They're not able to check on their portal. What is their status? You had given an undertaking that at least latest by the 25th of January, all students would know what is their funding status, and that is not happening. So we did not have an agreement. The only in principle agreement we had was that they were going to go back to the Treasury, National Treasury and Cabinet, and inform them of the shortfall, and hopefully something will come out of it. And to prove my point, Ayanda, if that money is not an issue, and that money is going to come, and there's this a magic agreement, there would be no need for them to stall the decision. They have gone out of their way to communicate to all 26 universities to tell them that do not register any NSFAS recipient or potentially or prospective NSFAS recipient, and until wait for our green light. And the explanation for that they gave us in the meeting that they speak about is that they do not know whether there's money or not, whether there will be money or not. Therefore, they do not want to overcommit themselves and give funding and confirm funding to students, and then come back 3 weeks later and say, hey, sorry, we actually do not have the money which we have committed. That is the dilemma that they are in. They also do not know, by the way, that Cabinet is going to approve that money.
Through your own admission, we don't know what they're going to announce tomorrow. So some people might look at that and say, would it not have been more circumspect for you to wait for the announcement before issuing this kind of statement, where essentially you're giving an ultimatum to government for a decision that none of us know?
If we were working with a sensible scheme and a sensible department, that would have been the way to go. But these people, are not sensible. We have seen it year in, year out, because you write it to them. I can give you so many examples. You write it to them using an email, ventilating all the issues that are in the sector. They do not respond. When they respond with, and I don't know, we will see. it is only when you heighten the tone of your voice that these people begin to understand, because they are not sensible. Let me give you an example, which might, well, it's not beside the point. Last year, even before November, we had been consulting, you will remember this, on the new NSFAS guidelines, which will inform many things, by the way, which are going to inform the appeals, that are going to inform how many modules students would have to pass for them to carry on to have their funding, etc. We were having these engagements, how much the scheme is going to pay towards accommodation, food, textbooks, etc. We had this conversation well before the end of the year. And up until today, Ayanda, the department is still sitting on those. They are using those recommendations and those reports. They are sitting using them as cushions, and they are sitting on top of them. And yet the academic year has begun. Universities do not know. If the NSFAS themselves, they are saying, we do not know what to do at this point because we have submitted them to the department for the department to be able to revert back to us. So it shows these people are not sensible. The only language they understand is this one which you are speaking. Because why else would you allow the academic year to begin and you are sitting on top of the report and using it as cushions when you know, to use the words of Linda Meyer from USEC that represents all the vice chancellors, she describes currently the sector now as being on a knife's edge because of these outstanding issues. So unfortunately, we are dealing with unsensible people, and as such, we have to sometimes use the tactics at which we are used.
So you do agree that issuing out an ultimatum is really just a tactic more than anything else? The
No, it's not a tactic.
Those are the words you've just used. You mentioned that it's about issuing certain tactics at certain moments.
Yes. No. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. The tactic, it's not a trick. It's not a trick. It's a tactic towards ensuring that the department, the universities, and government is well aware of what our intentions are and what we are going to do. We are not even making threats there. We are making mere promises. And there is nothing that we have said in the statement that we have not said in previous years. And there is nothing that we are promising to do that we are not going to do that we have not done before. We are just alerting them now because, you see, what would be unreasonable, Ayanda? And this is also what we said with the guidelines. We don't want a situation. By the way, even those engagements that NSFAS is telling you about, we have been calling for them. It's not us who call us to the table and say, yes, once or twice they have, I'll admit to that. But the majority of the time when there's a crisis, we reach out to them and say, but there is a crisis, so that we can find each other in good faith. Also, our statement is issued out in good faith. It even has timelines. If we wanted to be unreasonable, we could have declared a shutdown. There are frustrated students in the gates of every institution, right, whom if we declare shutdown now, they will shut those institutions down. But we are reasonably giving a time frame to say, this is our intention, this is what, this is how we are hoping. And everything we have said in the statement, by the way, and is nothing which we have not written. Some of those things last year in 2021 already, to say, deal with these issues because they will precipitate towards us a point of imminent crisis. We are not threatening. We are just telling them that within these particular time frames, if these things are not dealt with, this is our intention, so that when that time comes, no one must say we're unreasonable.
So what is that ultimatum? Help us understand. I mean, you say you're reasonable with your timelines. Your statement dropped yesterday. You're giving them until the 4th of February to find about 9.6 billion rand.
We have given NSFAS. From yesterday, we gave them 48 hours. Today, they are going to have 24 hours. From 12 o'clock today, they will be having 24 hours to confirm and give a green light to all institutions to register all senior students who are NSFAS recipients. Why are we saying this, Ayanda? NSFAS is saying there's a shortfall and universities must not register all students, returning students and new applicants. Now, you make me understand here. All returning students have already been budgeted for. From the very time that they sign contracts with the scheme, that they are going to be funded. The expectation, and obviously from everyone, was in fact the contract clearly states that that they will be funded for the entire duration of the current program for which they enrolled for. Now, if whether there was or there was not shortfall, we expected that there is money for those students. How can you commit to funding someone for the next 3 years, and then after their first year or second year, when they have met all their academic requirements, you then say to them, no, sorry, we do not have money. That is unacceptable. That is inhumane. That is unconstitutional. So we are saying within the next 24 hours, those students must be allowed to register, because we have at least been able to negotiate with universities to say it was again not the department, by the way, that went to universities and told them, please push back your registration date while we did. It was us who met with the universities through USAID to say, please push your registration date such that you are able to deal with these things in the sector. And they pushed their registration dates. And so these students are still having not registered. And the reality, Ayanda, is that there are minimal spaces in institutions of higher learning. And therefore, what is going to happen is that the students that can afford to pay for themselves are paying and they're occupying the space. By the time the scheme and the department come to the party, the spaces will be full, and the children of the poor and the working class will be sitting in the sidelines. We are not being dramatic. It is a reality. It is a fact that can be confirmed by all universities.
Got you loud and clear. Once again, we have reached out to NSFAS. They've opted to wait until this imminent announcement, which we understand will take place tomorrow, before making any comment on this. Let me thank you for your time. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Asive Dlanjwa is the spokesperson for the South African Union of Students.